What's up guys, it's Manga Time. Once again I'm here to bring you my review of Bleach 605, Don't Call My Name. That's a pretty badass title for a pretty badass chapter actually. Basically these two guys with some glorious facial hair basically spend the whole chapter fighting and it's pretty epic. Yeah, let's get on with it. The first page, there's a couple of glaring art mistakes. That's basically the first thing I want to point out, is there are a couple of art mistakes here. We see Shunsui. He's kind of like landed on the ground, and he's like looking around, and for some reason he's wearing socks. I know it's a very, very small thing, but when you've been a Bleach fan for as long as I have, you tend to pick up these things. Shunsui doesn't wear socks with his sandals, okay? That's just my first point. Why is he wearing socks? And secondly, he still has his eye back, so maybe Kubo has just ditched the whole eye patch thing, which to me is really, really stupid. And it'll be interesting to see when I get volume 62, whether or not he's got his eye patch back or not. Because they did supposedly fix it, so we'll see. But anyway, Shunsui's looking around, and this is really confusing. I think it might be because Manga Panda's translation is dodgy, but basically he's going around, he's looking at the destruction, and he says to himself, well, not to himself, but he says, you did a good job destroying everything. Now, I thought he was talking to a bad guy at the start here, and like I thought we were going to see him talking to a Seireitei, and he's like, you know, was this building one of the Seireiteis? If we get rid of the enemy, are the Seireitei buildings going to come back? And it's nice to see that, you know, even they don't really have a clue what still happened. But basically, you know, he then says if they have been destroyed, I hope they return in one piece. And then Ukitake is there. That is super random. Like, that's so random. I didn't see that coming at all. Completely shoots down my theory that Ginjo and all this lot were going to come back at the Kukaku Palace. But whatever, Ukitake is there, and for some reason he's got bandages all the way, presumably covering his entire body from his neck down. And I'll get into that in a minute as well. But basically Ukitake is like, well, if they were just damaged, we can rebuild them. And the reason I thought that bit before this was weird was because Shunsui says, you know, you did a good job destroying the buildings. It's talking to Ukitake, but who the hell was Ukitake fighting? Like, as far as we know, he wasn't fighting anyone. As far as we know, Ukitake was out of the Seireitei up until this very moment. So, that's why that first line's a bit weird. And I suspect the manga stream translation will be something a little bit more general, something just like, well, they did a good job destroying all the buildings. That's what I think it will be. But anyway, Shunsui's like, oh, I knew you'd say that, about rebuilding the buildings. And this next scene is just weird. It's like, but it's super interesting, but very weird. Shunsui's like, well, looks like we let them invade the palace. And then, I think it's Shunsui who says, did you realise? And then Ukitake has this sinister face, and he's like, that's why Kamikake. And it's like, what? What the hell does that mean? Shunsui says that, Shunsui then goes, indeed. And his eyes are shadowed. Whenever Shunsui's eyes are shadowed, shit is going down. Like, that is a bad sign if Shunsui's eyes are shadowed. And then, speaking of shadows, this huge shadow, like, stretches out from behind Ukitake, and Shunsui says it seems Kamikake was successful. And the shadow almost looks vaguely Egyptian, like it's got this strange eye. It looks like Ukitake's shadow, but with an eye in the middle of it and a ring around him. Is this one of these two's Bankai? Is this a method of getting into the royal palace? Is it something completely different? Honestly, I have absolutely no idea. It seems to possibly be something Ukitake was maybe preparing while he wasn't here, which would imply it's probably not Shunsui's Bankai, even though it does appear to be shadow-based. I believe Kamikake Kami obviously means God. I believe, I don't actually know, but I think Kake means something like gamble, or bet, God gamble, or a divine gamble, something like that. Which is very interesting, but unfortunately we really find out nothing more about this. So I'm very, very psyched to learn more about Kamikake. What the hell it is, what the hell they're going to use it for. Basically, I want to know what the hell Shunsui and Ukitake are up to. And Ukitake is like, well, since Kamikake is ready, we can push it a little. Push what a little? We don't find out. I kind of maybe think Shunsui means we can let them stay in the palace a little bit longer now that we have Kamikake up and running. But I really don't know. I honestly have no idea. But one thing I will say is that Ukitake is like really kind of sinister throughout this whole little back and forth, and Shunsui is shady as hell, but then he's always shady as hell. And then Shunsui says, well, see you later, and basically Ukitake, and this is like possibly my favourite bit of the chapter, but that's only because of what could possibly be about to happen, but might not be about to happen. And Ukitake is like, you know, where are you going? And then Kyoraku's like, that kind of quietness that makes you think something big is about to happen. And Shunsui basically goes, I have some business with the Central 46. Basically, that's what he says. And then on the side it says, to the depths of the Seireitei. First thought, Aizen. That was my first thought. Absolutely nothing else came to mind. In fact, as soon as Shunsui said, I have business, I was like, oh my god, oh my god. And then he said, with room 646, and I was like, oh my god! Because literally the first thought that came to mind was Aizen. The last time we saw Aizen, obviously ages and ages ago, he was being sentenced by the Central 46 to be in prison forever. Then we found out that his prison was underground, under the 1st Division, so that kind of throws this out the window a bit, but he could possibly just be going there to ask them to release Aizen. Honestly, this is what seems most likely to me, not just because I want to see Aizen again. A couple of other theories I've seen thrown around are Shunsui needs permission to leave to go to the Soul Society. I really doubt it. To go to the palace. I really doubt it. Because quite honestly, if he's going to receive that permission, it ain't going to be off the Central 46. It's going to be off the Royal Guard. They clearly outrank the 46. Yhwach is stepping foot in the palace. I don't think Shunsui's going to need permission to go and help out. That's just kind of my thing. Another one I've heard is that Shunsui needs permission to use his Bankai. Again, I don't think someone's going to be wanting to give Shunsui permission in the situation they're in. It seems to me that Shunsui wants to go and release Aizen. We know Shunsui's about the edgy choices after what he did with Unohana, so it just seems logical to me that Shunsui is going to want to go and bust Aizen out and take him to the palace and have him beat Yhwach or help beat Yhwach, and then Aizen will probably betray them. Anyway, we got up to the palace now, and we get the beginning of the fight between Ichibei, Hyosebe, and Yhwach. And Ichibei uses his massive paintbrush to draw a couple of lines on the floor. He draws this little pathway, and he's like, from here to here, in this space, I'm going to defeat you. Which is hilarious, because they end up out of the space immediately. So, you know, Yhwach basically lands on the floor, and he's like, it's a bit long. You're going to die 3 steps before this, Ichibei, Hyosebe. That's very specific. That's an awesome picture of Yhwach, though, but then when does Yhwach not have an awesome picture? So, yeah. And Ichibei then draws this massive seal, and he turns around and he looks like a complete badass, and he's like, you know, I thought I told you not to say my name so casually. And then from the seal, this huge hand just kind of comes and smacks Yhwach off the edge of the palace, which is, again, that's what like, why did Ichibei bother drawing that space? They're already out of it, but, you know, whatever. We get Yhwach's like, whoa, and he basically gets force pushed off the edge of this palace. He goes flying. And it's like crazy to see Yhwach like in such a crazy state, especially considering this probably isn't Royd Lloyd. That would be some bullshit. So yeah, this is the real Yhwach getting knocked around. And this I'm just gonna say it right now. This has the makings of an epic fight. Like, Kubo started it off really well. The giant hand smacks Yhwach and he goes flying. As he's flying, Ichibei appears above him and uses an ability called Senri Sutensho, piercing palm of 1,000 Rai. And I think 1,000 Rai, I read somewhere, was 500 kilometers. So Ichibei isn't trying to kill Yhwach. What he's trying to do is send him back down to the ground below. Basically, that's what he's trying to do. As Ichibei appears above Yhwach, Yhwach then pulls his hand up to try and use a spell, tries to say the spell, but realises he can't talk, which is really weird. Ichibei's basically like, I told you your throat was going to get crushed, so how the hell did Ichibei crush Yhwach's throat? As far as we know, he didn't do anything. So, yeah, that's crazy. It's Ichibei's really powerful. And Yhwach's like, oh, crap. And then basically Ichibei summons another giant hand, and he smacks Yhwach down into the ground. Basically, Ichibei's like, you know, think about what you've done. And he basically sends Yhwach flying. Literally, like, the hand smacks Yhwach goes shooting down. So Yhwach's on his way back down to the Seireitei at this point. You know, Ichibei's won, he sent Yhwach flying. And because Yhwach can't talk, there's nothing he can do about it. Until Yhwach's like, fuck this, and he basically just punctures 2 holes in his throat with his bare fingers. And this is a little bit confusing. I've seen a lot of people say the whole fight scene's confusing. It's not really. Only this bit is a bit confusing. Yhwach has his fingers in his throat, so he's touching his blood. Okay, that's what I think's crucial here. And then this power starts to surge back into his throat. He opens his mouth and he's like, I give voice to myself. And voice is written like that. So what's going on here? Well, I think we all know that Yhwach's blood bestows the shrift. We know that's his power. They drink the shrift and it writes the letter in their soul. So what's Yhwach doing? Is he using his own blood to give himself the shrift of the voice? We already know that Gremmy is dead, basically, even though it's just a brain. He's dead, so V is now available. So is that what Yhwach's just done, just giving himself the voice? It's hard to say. We already know that Yhwach is a god, essentially, and that he can restore things that people are missing. So he was missing his voice there, so he's now restored it. I presume by touching his blood. That's the only reason I can think that he broke his throat. But I kind of hope we see more of this sort of thing, just to get a clearer idea of what's happening. Irregardless, though, Yhwach then activates Sankt Borgin, which is basically Holy Bow. And it's this enormous Quincy spell that summons this massive arcing bow and these 6 huge arrows, and it looks amazingly cool. And then what happens next is just crazy. Yhwach basically fires one of the arrows through himself and lets it carry him back up to where Ichibei is. So what? And then basically Ichibei's like, oh crap! These 6 arrows just shoot past him, and then somehow he only gets scratched on the back by one of them, but it doesn't really matter. He gets scratched on the back. There's a bit of blood, and Ichibei's like, I never imagined that you'd shoot an arrow through yourself to bring you back up to me. You're truly terrible. Yhwach snaps the arrow in half and throws it away. And then Ichibei's like, I don't seem to have a choice, I'm going to have to kill you. He turns around and he looks creepy as hell. He's got no pupils or anything. His face is like, looks like it's been drawn with his brush, basically. But yeah, that's the end of the chapter. So, epic fight so far. It's pretty even, which we've been wanting to see for ages, a pretty even fight, where they're both going all out. It looks like we're going to get that as well. I hope this fight continues for quite a few more chapters, if I'm honest. But, you know, a lot of people found that confusing, so essentially what happened is Ichibei tried to send Yhwach back down. He smacked him off the edge, smacked him down the sky, but then Yhwach brought his voice back and shot himself back up with an arrow. So that's basically what happened in this chapter as far as their fight goes. And as he shot himself back up, he apparently slashed Ichibei. So yeah, really great back and forth, and I hope Kubo continues this for a while now. As for Shunsui and Ukitake, honestly, I have no idea what Kamikake is. Absolutely no idea. Let me know in the comments below what you think Kamikake is. Shinsui's Bankai, something Ukitake's invented, something maybe Ukitake's Bankai. I don't know, something that will help them get to the palace. Honestly, I have no idea, but I'm really intrigued to find out. But I think probably my biggest question this week to you guys is, do you think Shunsui is going to release Aizen? Or is he just going to Aizen? Is that where he's going? Let me know in the comments below. I'm going to drop a 9 on this week's chapter. I was super excited. A couple of the art mistakes aside, which was a bit of a shame. Just really great stuff. Again, maybe a bit too short as well, but I don't know, because I thought the first bit was nice, and there was quite a bit of dialogue between Shunsui and Ukitake, and it was interesting. And the fight between Ichibei and Yhwach looks to be great. That's exactly what we've wanted to see for ages, so give me more, Kubo, basically. Just give me more, okay? That's it from me this week, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this week's chapter, and don't forget to subscribe, whoa, up here. I'd really appreciate it, guys. Until next week, see ya.